It's the Kink Consultant Podcast, where we're turning up the heat on all things kink and dating, relationships, and pop culture. So close the door, plug in your headphones, and let's get down to it. Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Kink Consultant Podcast, where I would like to introduce Lucy Baldwin, a shadow alchemist and magician. And when I heard that she was doing sex magic, which we're going to find out about, shadow alchemy, I said, I need you on the podcast because I need to understand what these things are. And I think a lot more people need to understand in general. So welcome, Lucy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. Okay, so in our intro emails, you were talking a little bit about existential kink, shadow alchemy, and then you said, and sex magic. All I saw was sex magic in big words. I was like, what is sex magic? So if you don't mind, I would like to start there because that has my curiosity super piqued. And I didn't let you talk about it in the intro call because I was like, wait, no, I want to find out in real time. So everyone can experience the excitement of learning this together. So would you mind explaining that?
Yes. So magic is real. That's the first thing I want to say. And I'm talking about real magic, of course, not fantasy magic. This isn't like Harry Potter magic. This is actual magic, like rituals that we do, which if you don't believe in anything mystical or woo, you can just think of it as communicating with your own mind, communicating with your own unconscious. But sex is one of the most powerful tools that a magician can use because magic is all about metaphors. It's all about using symbols to communicate with our unconscious.
Yeah.
And so sex is kind of like the ultimate symbol of creation. I mean, we have sex to make human life, that we literally create universes by having sex. But not only that, the magic is much more powerful when you can evoke sensation in yourself, like when you can really feel things in your body that kind of locks the symbol into like the material world. So it's not just like happening in your mind. It's like bringing it into the body. And of course, sex is one of the most powerful initiators for our nervous system, especially for women, but our genitals are kind of like our second brain. And there's a ton of like sensory information and nervous system anchoring that's happening in that region. So when we use sex in magic, we create, it's like a powerhouse. There's so much power in our sexuality and in our eroticism, and doing magic and going into these places in ourselves and getting really aroused and getting turned on and having orgasms. Even just like really simple magic, there's this thing called sigil magic where you basically like create a symbol for something. Like the common way that you're supposed to like charge that symbol to give it power is to masturbate and orgasm while staring at the symbol. That's just like the most basic level sex magic.
Anything that requires masturbation to seal it, I'm in. So number one, I love that. But also, I'm realizing I do sigil magic, I think, without thinking about it. I am a huge fan of manifestation. And sometimes I try and attach a symbol to it that I create in my head that I'm like, okay, if I were to draw a stick figure of what I'm imagining, and it might look nothing like it, but I'm realizing I think that's a sigil. And I've never masturbated to the thought of my sigil or like having that be present, but I thinking that's what I need to try. I literally have a sigil in mind that I'm like, this is happening today. Okay. So
yeah, because you're making a symbol of the thing that you want to manifest, and then you're searing it into your psyche by staring at it while you orgasm and have this big nervous system experience. And so you're like, it's just psychology. I mean, you're just literally embedding that symbol into your psyche.
I love it. I've heard of people masturbating to their vision boards. I have a friend that does that too. Catherine Drysdale, shout out to you, who I came over one day and she was like, oh, I was masturbating to this. I was like, okay, I don't think I could come from that, but that's fine. But yeah, okay, I know this is a practice, but I don't think I've ever put it all together. Okay, loving all of it. So many things just went off in my head when you talked about it. I talk about your vagina, your genitals, your pussy, and being aligned with it all the time because it's my greatest source of pleasure. I want to be aligned with it in my body. I'm a somatica coach, and we talk about like thinking with your pussy, checking in if it's happy, and then knowing your decision, just like you're talking about, of knowing if your nervous system is settled and okay. And that check-in means a lot. So before I even talk about sex with other people, I want to actually, I was going to say double dip, but that's like a terrible innuendo when we're talking about a vagina. I want to double tap, also a terrible innuendo. Okay. I want to talk more about that. Is there a way through any of the work you do to get more in touch with your vagina?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, one of the practices that you mentioned, I think, in your intro of me is existential kink, which is a really powerful practice of actually trying to get off. It's kind of the opposite of what we just said. It's actually getting off on things that are like don't like situations in your life. So, literally getting aroused by not having the things that you want, just like struggling in relationships. But when you do that practice regularly, I've noticed for me, I can feel when things have a charge in my genitals. It's like I'm in a shitty situation and something's making me mad and I'm upset about it, but then I can feel that like, oh, but I'm actually turned on by this. And so
Guilty.
yeah, like I just really believe in using our turn on as a guide. But this is where, the kink part comes in. It's like some of the stuff that we're turned on by is not what we actually want. And so that's where existential kink comes in the practice where you actually get off on those things and you find that turn on in your body. You release the charge by letting yourself fully go there and potentially climax if possible. And it can be a stroking practice too. It's not originally meant to be a stroking practice, but it is very successful as a stroking practice where you literally get off on those things and then it can kind of release the charge. And yeah, it's sort of the opposite of what we just talked about, but it's the same thing. It's like the reverse psychology of it.
Okay, I'm thinking of like 10 things that I hate. I hate losing a pickleball. It makes me really angry. Would I masturbate to that? Like, it's not a kink to lose a pickleball. Like everything that happens in the kink world, it also affects our outside world. So why can't we rely on each other to better it? So can we go with the pickleball example real quick? I'm not even a great player. I just get very angry at myself when I lose. Is there a possibility to meld that in to work through it?
Yeah, absolutely. The way the practice works is you would literally like lay down and you would think about what that feels like, that anger, that frustration that you feel when you lose. And then you think about the situation, but you feel into your body because anger is very arousing. I often will coach people to tell themselves, like, oh, I give myself permission to enjoy this feeling of anger. I give myself permission to like feel how much I really like this. It doesn't always turn into actual pussy arousal.
Yeah.
Sometimes it will be like laughter or just like vibration. And the turn on can come in that form, but a lot of times it is very erotic and it can lead to, yeah, arousal and orgasm.
Okay, I'm gonna try it. I don't know. I'm worried about becoming angrier or enjoying my anger so much I lean into anger as opposed to finding the enjoyment of it.
Yeah, and that is a common thing that people are worried about. But the thing is, if you're getting off on your anger, you're not angry. You're amused, you're delighted, or at least you're enjoying the anger. You know what I mean? Like if you're
Yes.
getting off on it, then you're enjoying it and it's no longer taking from you.
Okay, I like this example. I'm really glad we worked through it because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try that. It's funny because I think that this would also help for people who might feel discomfort in being touched as well, depending on the source reason that they're uncomfortable with being touched. But acclimatizing to the idea of it while also hating it, it sounds like it could create a connection of pleasure. Do you ever work with people on that?
So, a lot of the work that I do with people on this mostly is like there's no touch happening. It's
Yeah.
just literally feeling the sensation in the body, which for a lot of people is actually really hard to do. But of course, the better you get at turning your attention to focus on the sensations that are happening in your body, the better sex you're going to have, the better pleasure you're going to be able to have. And also, we all kind of have a threshold for how much pleasure we're willing to feel. Those thresholds vary, like depending on the type of pleasure. So, I do a lot of work with people where it's just feeling into their body and allowing the sensation and training yourself to recognize sensations as pleasure. Sometimes people will start with, like, okay, is it familiar? Is there some comfort in that familiarity? Can you enjoy that feeling? Like, can you enjoy that sensation? And of course, the sensation is always changing.
Are you craving deeper intimacy and the freedom to explore your desires without shame? Do you feel nervous bringing kink up with your partner? Or maybe you're curious to start but don't know where to begin? That's exactly where coaching comes in, and I've helped countless couples and individuals navigate kink in their lives and relationships. Book your consult today at amandadames.com and let's make your desires feel doable. That's fascinating and extremely relatable because even though I do think I'm pretty in my body, most of the time. There are moments where I feel I have deep feelings on things and I'm not creating any connection of what that sensation is or could I enjoy it. So that is a new lens I'm going to look through for it. Okay. Can you do sex magic with a partner?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Do they need to know that you're doing it with them?
No, they don't need to know. I
Okay.
mean, they can know. I've definitely had partners who were involved in, like, magic stuff that they didn't know.
Okay. Consent, yes, but this is something that's more spiritual and psychological. Okay. Let's talk about how can you do sex magic with a partner?
So there's actually a lot of like literature of different sort of like sex magic rituals, old ancient rituals and stuff. I don't know if you're familiar with like the beatnik movement. They had a yab yum, which was a sex position that was sort of, I would argue, ritualistic. They were using it for like meditation, sort of getting into like the tantra. But even in the West, there were a lot of big sex magic rituals. And they've actually talked about this practice called the holy hexagram. So the hexagram is like a big symbol in magic because it's like the union of the body and soul, matter and mind, like the bringing everything into balance. Because that's what humans are, right? Like we're mind and matter in balance. And
That's new to me. I never thought about it like that. But as soon as you said it, I was like, yes, actually, we are mind and matter in balance some days. But yes.
seeking the balance, seeking that balance. So this holy hexagram is 69. It's
Oh,
just like the 69 is the holy hexagram.
my favorite position. No one believes me
Yeah.
because everyone thinks like it's this fake overrated position. It is not. I love it.
Yeah, sometimes it takes some maneuvering to find the right position, but there's actually this ritual that I've come across. I think it's like the most powerful magic ritual where you literally like do a 69 in each of the like four directions.
Like east, west,
Yeah.
north, south.
Because again, ritual and magic, it's just using symbols to communicate things. So if you want to manifest something, I mean, actual male female penetrative sex is the ultimate symbol of manifestation.
Oh, is that because it creates life?
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, that makes a ton of sense. I'm actually still thinking like, okay, how am I going to have 69 in all four positions? This is such a silly question. I recognize it. I'm assuming you don't have to go to climax. You could start one way, move, move, move. Yes.
Right. Yeah, because I think that it would be really hard. So I've done it like waiting till the end to climax. My partner and I cannot climax four times, but what we have been able to achieve, this is so, I can't believe I'm sharing this on a podcast, but I'm totally fine with it, is like alternating. So one of us is climaxing in each position, like in each
So, because
location.
someone does need to climax.
I don't think that that's required, but I was like, I really want to have one climax in each direction.
Oh, I love that. Okay. I know because I'm thinking like I don't have the energy anymore for four
Four
climaxes.
climaxes, that's a lot.
That's a lot of work on my job when I'm like considering like the work I would have to do to stay in my space. And that's just a reality of it. Okay. But I like that. That's something you would do to bind a specific manifestation or request of the universe.
That's like a specific ritual that is more about doing the great work of integrating the opposites within ourselves.
Okay.
But you could do that as like a manifestation ritual. People always think, oh, magic, like, am I going to mess it up? Am I going to do it wrong? But you can't really do it wrong because, again, you're communicating with your own mind. You're communicating with yourself. So you get to decide what it means and what you're going to get out of it.
Ooh, that's a really good point because I am one of those, oh, am I going to do it wrong people, especially when you hear so many things on Instagram and TikTok, like, don't manifest right now because this moon is only going to ruin it, or like this, whatever's happening in the universe. I'm a firm believer in, oh, Mercury's retrograde, some things are going to be difficult, or certain moons might mean certain things. I care about eclipses. I have a friend who won't start anything new during Mercury retrograde, and I think that's a little far, but that's her own thing. And I like what you're saying, though. We kind of own it, and it's our power more than anything else, unless, I don't know, do you have any thoughts on planets, Mercury retrograde, the moon magic?
Yeah, I have a whole podcast about planetary magic called The Seven. I've actually taught classes on this, like how we use magic to take the planets as allies so that they don't have this undue power over us. I love astrology, but one of my biggest complaints is that it kind of presents us as a victims. It's like the planets are in charge and we don't have any sovereignty and, we're just kind of at the whim of whatever's happening. And I'm like, or we could take the planets on as allies, negotiate with them and ask them for what we want and turn Mercury retrograde into a positive and work with Mercury. Do like a little ritual to ask Mercury to reverse the meaning of Mercury retrograde. And now I have extra mercurial magic during the retrograde. That's kind of how I like to frame it.
Oh, I love that. Okay. I do have that same issue with astrology, but I'm a firm believer in astrology because sometimes I look back when I go to astrologists, they'll be able to tell me what happened in my life at different ages. And I'm like, how did you know that? And it's like, well, it's in your chart. So sometimes it does feel like it does just know and it can know the good and the bad. But yes, that also plays on my mind. I'm glad we're going through all of my insecurities about what's happening. This is helping. Yeah. Helping calm my mind about things that until you said it, I didn't realize. Yes, I actually put a lot of brain power into thinking about these things, including my own astrology chart. I get a lot of hate for almost everything I say in different ways. Do you find people attack this sex magic thing, or are people pretty receptive when you bring it up?
I would say that sounds like a kink. There's probably some part of you that's getting off on that.
On people being angry at me? Oh my God, that's a really interesting thing. I get angry back. I do find power in it. Like recently, I posted about this. I had someone posting very religious comments, like the passive aggressive sending Bible verses on my podcast. And it did fire me up. And it just reminded me, like, in the same week, someone sent me an article about why the Catholic Church says BDSM is wrong. It was adding fuel to a fire that has probably made me more productive than I normally am because I'm like, oh no. Yeah, kink isn't accepted. I absolutely need to be out doing my job. So there is something to it, but I wonder if it's also magnifying for me. When one small thing happens, I focus on it because I don't think I get off on it. I think I'm like, am I doing something wrong? And then I have to remind myself I'm not. And then I find power in that. Does
Uh-huh,
that make
uh-huh.
sense?
Yeah, you're using it to fuel you.
Yeah. And that has been a common motivator for me. But there are definitely things that I secretly get off on that I don't like.
Sorry, I
This
totally turned your question around. I never get the reason I said that.
Oh,
I'm so
no,
sorry.
no,
The
no. You took me on a different path, by the way, but you answer, and then I have another question for you.
Yeah, I don't get that. Pretty much everyone in my field is super into planetary magic and this weird kinky shadow work stuff.
I love it. Most people in my field are either totally neutral on it or very into it. I can't believe I'm admitting this on the podcast. One of the things I do want is fame, money and fame. Money, because I want to be able to do the work I love doing without having to worry. And it fluctuates a lot. And then fame, not because I personally want to be famous. I want to be the Dr. Ruth of kink because I want it to be more accepted. I want people to understand this is a powerful tool in your relationship. It's not what the media has portrayed it as. These are the two things I always try and manifest. Is there a more efficient way I could be doing it? And when you brought up, is there a part of you that enjoys the negativity? What immediately clicked for me is there a part of me that enjoys struggling? Because I do feel sometimes I'm shadow banned on Instagram. Sometimes I get like a lot of trolls hating. And then sometimes I get like 10 new clients in a month. And then next month it's 3. And that really panics me. Is there a way to integrate this type of magic to sort of work past that?
I mean, I would definitely recommend. So there's kind of two sides that I'm talking about here. There's like the side of the shadow alchemy and using something like existential kink to kind of unravel whatever beliefs or identities you have that are potentially holding you back. If you, for example, believe that you should struggle or some part of you is getting off on struggling, or I'm just latching on to struggling because you mentioned
Yes.
that. But, whatever it is, it could be that you have an identity of not being famous. Then there's doing the EK kind of or other shadow alchemy work around that. So changing our beliefs and identities will change how we're able to show up in the world. Like it changes what we're able to sort of bring forward. And then on the other side is the manifestation magic of calling in the money and fame and success. You could do that definitely through sex magic. And the two are also, I'm presenting them as separate, and they often are thought of as separate, and also they can kind of be the same thing because you could literally do a ritual where in the ritual you're getting off on the idea of not being successful and combine them.
Thank you. That was very helpful. And I recognize that doesn't necessarily have to do with kink, but I think we might be aligned that a lot of things have to do with kink. It was rejection a kind of kink of mine. And I think that is the epitome kind of existential kink. Is that correct? So can we talk a little bit more? I know we touched on it, but if I wanted to go deep on existential kink, what path would I take? What could I do? to start my journey there?
First of all, there's a book by Carolyn Elliott, who's a friend of mine. And yeah, I do have a podcast that I think I mentioned. It's called Penetrate Radio, which is a bunch of certified coaches in existential kink. And it's hosted by me talking about the practice. And we also have a community around it. But I think that the main thing is there's some key understandings that existential kink brings. One of them is basically this idea that we're capable of getting off on anything. It's like pain does not equal suffering. So this was actually born out of orgasmic meditation. Are you familiar with the orgasmic meditation movement at all?
That's not like the cult in LA. It is that cult in LA?
It is that cult. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Wait,
So
hold
the
on. Are we in real time? Are you pro cult in LA? Or
No,
did
I'm
they?
not. I was never part of the cult,
Okay.
but my friend who wrote the book Existential Kink, she was part of that. She wasn't like putting it on, but she was one of the people who like bought the programs from those people. But yeah, the woman Nicole Daedone is in jail. The woman who ran that.
Okay.
It's
It would have
called
been real
Wanted.
interesting if mid-podcast I realized you were part of this. I'm familiar with the baseline and the foundational information, but then also how it was co-opted by this group. At the beginning, like many cults, it sounded beautiful, but they just co-opted it. They didn't come up with it.
Well, they tried to control everybody's life, I think is what happened. And
Tends to be a cult move, yes.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Who has time for that? Like seriously, who has time to do
yeah,
that?
and who cares? I think it's a money-grabbing thing more than anything, but
They were doing some really shady practices. I know a lot of people who were members of that, and they were doing some really shady stuff. But the key idea from that, one of the key ideas is like, so they would do this stroking practice called orgasmic meditation for the woman. So it was very like male, female. The male would stroke the female with gloves and lube, and there was a very specific way that they were supposed to stroke. And as the female receiving this, you're supposed to practice getting off on every stroke.
every stroke?
Yeah, so the idea is like some strokes are actually really uncomfortable and like a big part of the practice was to like train yourself to learn to get off on every stroke, to experience the strokes as pleasure.
Okay.
And that is kind of the foundational idea of existential kink. It's like in life, we can get off on every stroke. And there is a part of us that is getting off on it. And even if it's unconscious, even if we're not aware of it, like there's some part of us that is enjoying everything that's happening. And so getting in touch with that, but on a somatic level, because you can't convince yourself that you like something that you don't like. It's not something you can think your way into. You have to feel your way into it, which is why I mentioned when you're talking about was it volleyball?
Pickleball.
Pickleball, like feeling into what it feels like when you get angry in the body and then
Okay.
getting off on that, not like, oh, I like getting off on pickleball. People try to do that and it doesn't work like that.
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. I see how that works. I want to retract any statement about cultiness because I understand now the foundational thing. And I do remember that thing of like there was a very specific way that women were masturbated to feel pleasure, but it was very extreme. Maybe the extent they took it to. Is this a practice that I could try myself or do I need to take a class on it?
Like orgasmic meditation or
Yes.
existential kink.
Or orgasmic meditation.
I wasn't involved in it, but I just looked up online. There's YouTube videos that tell you how to do it. And it's actually very simple, but it's like a man. I mean, I don't think it needs to have to be a man, but like with
Oh,
gloves
yeah.
on and lube is supposed to like stroke you at a very specific location. And there's a timer and it's just very contained.
Sounds very like sensory overload to me because I'm very sensitive in general. And then what's the best way to experience or start your journey with existential kink?
I mean, I would definitely recommend either reading the book or listening to it and then just trying the practice. But you can also, yeah, obviously listen to my podcast. And I do have a community that's just based on this. It's like a low cost, it's like less than the cost of a manicure every month. And we just have calls because it's a big thing. It's like a big thing that the book alone just doesn't really take you through the process. My friend and I used to actually, we ran the certification program to like train existential kink coaches. And that program doesn't exist anymore as of right now. But yeah, you can go really deep with it because it's a whole philosophy. And a big piece of it that I also want to mention is radical approval. Like you have to approve of whatever the situation is in order to get off on it. It's kind of like one of the key things. It's like you can actually get off on almost anything if you approve of it. And shame is the thing that can actually stops us, or like the belief that we shouldn't like whatever it is. We have all these stories, and that's what makes it hard to access our pleasure.
I feel that. Well, shame just gets in the way of almost anything. And this is like a way to handle or own the shame and turn it into something that's you accept about yourself and find pleasure in. That sounds really amazing. Early on in my kink journey, I've talked about this before. I literally went to a hypnotherapist to try and not be kinky anymore because I have a fetish, not a kink. All of my listeners have heard this before, but essentially, I have a punishment and spanking fetish. I need to think about that to get off. I have never gotten off to any other thought other than that. So the sigil would have to be on the side of also my fetish. And I literally went to a hypnotherapist to try and get rid of this. And as you said, I'm like, it probably would have been a much easier path in life had I gone down maybe even the existential kink route of being able to accept it about myself. Luckily, the hypnotherapist said she wouldn't do it for me and that encouraged me never to get it done. And I never pursued it in any other way, didn't talk to any other hypnotherapist. And then I found my own journey. My own journey was exposure, working as a dominatrix in a dungeon. There were a lot of things I did that helped me to get past it. But it sounds like existential kink would have been an amazing thing for me to work with in my early 20s. Do you get many people of all age ranges that are using it to really break past their shame?
Yes, definitely, definitely. And a lot of people like 30 and up mostly, really. But
Yeah.
yeah.
That tracks because, I think also in your 30s is where you really start to get a hold of things and realize you cannot live with shame forever
Yep.
and work past it. What's the normal path or experience of someone who starts to seek out existential kink? For example, if I hired you as a coach, what would it look like to work with you?
The main thing that we talk about is literally holding radical approval for our clients and also holding turn on, just being like, not necessarily sexually aroused, but like in turn on for whatever they're sharing about with us. And then I just use a variety of tools, but a lot of it involves getting into the body and working with our identities and beliefs that we have, like the belief that I shouldn't be turned on by punishment. I would probably, if I had been your coach, back when you were seeking help with that, I would have like held a lot of space for you in from the angle of like, I totally approve of this fetish. I think it's amazing for you. And I wouldn't necessarily say that, but that's how I would treat it
Yeah.
and try to help you kind of overcome the belief that you should be any different from exactly how you are. And that's just like really therapeutic for people because we just have so many opinions about what is good and bad and right and wrong. And that's what creates all of this shame and repression. And kink is really the outlet for that in every way that it can be.
I totally see that. And I love that acceptance. It's a lot of my own work too, is about just teaching people that it's what they want is okay. Because a lot of times, especially by your 30s, you've at least had 25 very focused years on how to be normal. Like the world trying to tell you this is what you're supposed to look like. I mean, almost in a culty way of this is how you have to be. We want to control your life so you conform and fit. And that is not healthy. And it's oftentimes, there are a lot of negative impacts on body image, on status in society, but also kink, especially like what you want in the bedroom. I don't know how this rumor started that everyone just wants vanilla sex or non kinky sex. Honestly, it's this idea that if you're doing something different, be quiet about it and just don't tell anyone and it's fine. And that's hurting our ability to explore and enjoy our pleasure as much as we could. Okay, I love it. So you've mentioned two podcasts now on the show today. You have one about planetary guides, or what's that one?
Planetary magic.
Are you still doing that one?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay. And then the newer one on existential kink.
Uh huh.
And what's that called?
It's called Penetrate Radio.
Penetrate radio. Yes. Okay. I love it. I genuinely do, though. Any type of innuendo or, okay. So, where can I find all these podcasts? I mean, we will include links in the show notes, but where can I find you? Where can people go learn more about the work you do, existential kink, planetary magic, and your coaching?
Yeah, I mean, I have a website, which is lucybaldwin.me, which is actually just a great place to start because everything is on there. I'm also on Instagram, Lucy Baldwin author. It's lucy.baldwin.author. I mean, my website is probably the best place. But yeah, this podcast, Penetrate Radio, is brand new. And that's really getting into the existential kink stuff. The Seven podcast is really about working with the planets and planetary magic, different kind of thing.
Okay. How often are you releasing the planetary magic one?
Every week.
Oh, wow. I mean, I do this every week as well. I'm just like, oh, I don't know why. I'll explain. I thought planets move slow, so she's probably doing one a month. But yeah, every week. Wow, that's a lot. Or just more than I expected, I should say. All right. So I will include links to those shows in the show notes. Lucy, it has been wonderful having you here. I've had so much fun learning about things I felt I knew about, but I'm like, maybe I didn't know as much as I thought. So thank you so much. I will be practicing with my sigils tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with anyone who might find it interesting. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover in future episodes, feel free to reach out. Email info@thekinkconsultant.com. Until next time, keep on kinking on.